Thank you so much.
Uh, Thanks a lot, Dr. Jitendra. Uh, while I will do a justice in terms of making sure that we look at technologies and what are available and a bit of constraints on which we need to put our entire, I should say, proposals in such a way that it meets the requirement. I think the academic team, the administrative team will also get into the little more details. What I thought I will do is I'll just give a glimpse about the technology. I hope you can see my slides. Hello,
Yes, sir, they are
can all
visible.
of you see? Huh?
Yes, sir, they are visible.
They are visible. Okay, and I hope my voice is also audible.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What I'm going to do is take you through to some of this thing related to. I don't have to spell too much because all of you would have gone through the so-called the call is fairly detailed in terms of it's what needs to be done and what has to be taken care. I thought I should just simply introduce a few critical objectives of the scheme, which will also lay down foundation for preparing the proposal. This objective of the announced scheme is to support innovative slash models or technologies pathways for production of green hydrogen, including a range of things which has been mentioned, saying that you can really look at various technologies which can be really looked at, is what it says. And hydrogen production technology, they may have identified something based on my discussions with BIRAC. It is very clear whichever is going to get qualified as green hydrogen could be brought under this umbrella of this proposal. Second important thing is this proposal is also looking at an end utilization. It is not just generation, it can get utilization. The utilization can be direct hydrogen or its derivatives. I'll also touch upon its derivatives to give a little more clarity what could be possible. And again, depending upon how the framework for referencing the entire thing which happens during the proposal evaluation, BIRAC will decide what needs to be looked at. Here, a few examples have been given: cooking, heating, off grid electricity generation, off road vehicles. That means it is looking at a range of applications. It could be right from mobility applications to heat application or industrial power generation, and a sort of things wherein the hydrogen, green hydrogen, should get into for different applications which can make sure that some broad decarbonizations can be addressed. I think that's something which the scheme looks at. And to validate the technical feasibility and the performance of green hydrogen as a fuel for, and it goes beyond the industrial applications or mobility to say that it can also be applied to residential, commercial appliances, including city gas and local community applications. This is really looking at a gamut of activities which can be spread. Probably, I think people can make a judgment in terms of its landscape and what is available. Probably, I think when we address all these things, both at the hydrogen utilization and the generation part, it becomes extremely important for the proposals to consider the safe and secure use of uh, hydrogen it and its derivative in any other new sector. But I think I'm just going to emphasize in all the sectors wherever it is going to be done. I think the objectives and the proposal would really look at how safe and secure should be the entire generation utilization pathway. I think that's something which is sort of a unique in this proposal. It's not just generation; it's also against something called end utilization. This again, they have left the entire landscape of using hydrogen to meet the decarbonization sector into a range of things. Having said so, there are other criteria on which I think we need to be very, very clear. The projects with the intention to develop pilot scale or demonstration of project based or innovative based in intervention will be supported. I think, like what the MD initially mentioned, any innovative aspects can be brought into the fold to look at this one. And the most important criteria, which becomes very, very sort of leveraging the technology beyond what is going to be done between TRL 5, 6. That means it should be really proven at a certain scale, whichever location it's going to be really looked at. With probably is what I think even the MD just mentioned, saying that probably one really looks at those things to be the innovative. This is preceding with the previous statement. Any other innovative technology, I think this we should really look at TRL 5, 6. Probably, I think this is also expected. It should be part of the documentation which is going to be provided. I think that's something which they have also an explicit statement which says that studies involving development of proof of concept slash early stage research will not be supported. This is not a research uh, project, R&D project. Is more like a pilot scale and implementation kind of situation. Keeping this in mind, I would like to just draw your attention to certain important criteria which we need to really look at. This is based on the information which is available for green hydrogen on the MNRE website. I think I have listed two things here. One, the definition of green hydrogen becomes extremely important in terms of the generation. It could be through the electrolysis. I think these two pathways are mentioned, but more or less everything looks at how you are utilizing the electricity, how you are trying to, where you are bringing the electricity, and at the end of the day, 2 kilograms of carbon dioxide equivalent per kilogram of hydrogen produced is what is being looked at. And there is one important rider, the biogenic component are not considered to be the CO2 emitting kind of situation. I'll not dwell too much. I think many of you who are going to put up the proposals, you will be aware of these things, what needs to be done and kind of situation. And at the end, I would like to leave one tracer, which probably it will also be looked at some point at time as we move into this technology while the mission is taking place. Bureau of Energy Efficiency shall be the nodal agency for certain evaluation. I think this is also a rider which comes in. When we really look at some of the requirements of these green technologies, there is also broad performance criteria which is already been there in the MNRE website. I have listed these. The site programs do really look at what needs to be done. I think as far as the projects are concerned, probably one should adhere to majorly these things, including the safety which I mentioned. I think these are the broad criteria on which it'll take place. Just to give you a glimpse, in case we are going to use electricity from the grid, I think this is how this average CO2 per kilowatt hour would be. This is just to give you a glimpse. That means we need to make sure that we are going to use example. Simplest example is electrolysis, which requires electricity for splitting. There, if you use grid electricity, probably it will be completely off the CO2 track. I think this way they are looking at end to end. Everything should be with respect to the CO2 emitted. I think that needs to be kept in mind. And just to give you a glimpse about various technologies, I think all of you are experts who are going to bid for this one. We have various sources which come in. I think these two are the blocks on which we are going to really look at. Block one is the green, which could be the electricity source coming from renewable, basically. Nuclear also is being utilized. I think I'll just briefly mention about that one. The other things which are going to be to mitigate this one, any replacement of these hydrogen would also be enabling into the so-called green hydrogen going into between these two pathways. The other one which you see here is related to electricity from the grid going through electrolysis. This is one such route which is being looked at. When we are generating hydrogen from coal, it is called brown hydrogen. When we are generating hydrogen from these fossil fuel like natural gas and the naphtha, it is gray hydrogen. And these, with respect to electrolysis and renewable energy, you can see the CO2 level is virtually zero. I think that's where, but I think there is a consideration. It should be less than 2 kgs as far as MNRE's guideline for the green hydrogen is concerned. I think this is something which we need to keep in mind. There are two naturally available substances which carry hydrogen as element. I think most of you know. I think these are the two major pathways which I think the National Green Hydrogen Mission is also pursuing. One is through the electrolysis, and another one is through the biomass route. With electrolysis, we have different routes which be being explored. The energy required should be from green sources is what very clearly mentioned. I think that we are aware of the biochemical processes can have various different fermentation technologies. The thermochemical conversion can have different. I have identified one or two, but I think in the next slide you will see some a little more. These are the processes which, when we really look at as the source, which will help in terms of generating green hydrogen or its derivatives. And these are the derivatives. Whenever you generate for a certain process conditions, you can generate the COH2 mixture, which can go to a range of downstream fuels and chemicals, which is very well established in petrochemical sectors. I think that's something very easily a derivative can be really looked at. That's what I think the call talks in terms of its derivative nature and what needs to be done. As an example, which people have been talking about, is one something which I am talking about. Methanol could be one example, ammonia could be another example, ethanol. If there are processes to going through this route, could be an end use which can be applied. This is how the derivatives can be looked at. There could be many more things which can be really applied as we go forward. Keeping these two as resources, maybe water and biomass, electricity coming from green sources. We have electrolysis, and this only one statement which has been made as biomass gasification. It could be pyrolysis, it could be a range of things. We are not here any technology specific or technology bias. As long as it follows a certain route to generate green hydrogen, is what is being considered. And maybe depending upon the end use, you can have gas storage or gas piping. End use again depends on what needs to be done. The reason why these elements have been brought into this slide is to just show that there are, whenever we are going to look at end use applications, it could be a refinery, it could be a chemical industry, it could be other industries or any other applications which have been identified. Probably we need to really look at the entire spectrum. I think that's where we need to concentrate and make sure that these things do happen. Just to give you a few pathways, to say that from renewable sources, we have two different pathways. One is biomass processing and water splitting. I think this is something which you are aware. With respect to biomass processing, we have the pyrolysis. You get the pyrolysis, and that can be again further converted to hydrogen. There is also a process called gasification, which is a thermochemical process. That means heat and chemistry is used, and we have other new. I mean, people have been contemplating on using supercritical water gasification. These are the processes where I will not dwell or getting into any of these technologies, because this is meant to just give you an education in terms of what are the various hydrogen processes which are being really looked at for green hydrogen production. When we go to the biological process or biochemical process, we have different processes called biophotolysis, dark fermentation, photofermentation. I think some of these things have also been mentioned. Can it be using wastewater? A range of things which has been mentioned in the call. To just get that in anaerobic digestion, one can generate methane, and further the steam reforming can go to hydrogen. Biophotoelectric is also by decomposition of water and the influence of photoautotropic processes, microorganisms. This is again a biological process. Dark fermentation process is based on the bacterial, which converts the sugars which are there for into hydrogen and organic acid. Photofermentation is photosynthetic bacteria would convert. I think these are all processes at various stages. I think people who are wanting to put up the proposals with respect to various areas would have already uncovered what it means. When we come to the so-called water splitting, we have the thermolysis, the photolysis, and water electrolysis. I think while mostly people would be really looking at water electrolysis as a commercial thing which is happening in the country, probably I think the other routes are also available for people to explore. The photolysis, depending upon as it reached about TRL 5 and 6 stage kind of thing, is for hydrogen production using high heat, and also looking into splitting of water under those conditions. Photolysis talks about the using the photons which can be utilized, that is light, for more in terms of breaking the bonds in the presence of uh, the artificial photocatalysis which are going to be there. The other thing which is going on in a large scale in the country is related to the alkaline electrolysis, wherein you use the alkaline water. Again, electricity is required for this process. Brought up PEM fuel cell, PEM electrolysis, and the solid oxide electrolysis. I think these are all the processes which are basically used for water splitting. I think these any of these processes would, using electricity from green source, would be eligible for green hydrogen production pathways. And there is also something to make sure that these things do get completed. Nuclear base, if you generate electricity and you can go to any of the electrolysis electrolyzer options, probably it will also really look at the high heat available in high temperature heat available in a nuclear process would also be enabling to do certain steam electrolysis which can reduce the electricity demand. I think this is something which people have been looking at. And nuclear thermo chemicals water splitting through very early established sodium sulfur iodine cycle, hybrid sulfur cycle, copper chlorine cycle. These are all some processes which are available as long as the nuclear. There are also people talking about aluminum. I thought I should just bring a clarity into this one. If aluminum is going to be produced using green electricity, and all the other processes linked to aluminum production and utilization are going to be green, it could be classified. Otherwise, probably it will not get into thing. I think to that extent, they, from the literature, there seems to be limited. But I thought to bring in clarity to people, this would be good enough to say that if aluminum is completely generated using green hydrogen processes without leaving any traces of CO2, probably I think this would be a sort of a qualified criteria for hydrogen production. I'll rest my case here. I think this is only to say that these are the technologies which are going to be utilized, and probably these are limit a few ones which have been mentioned, but there could be many other innovative green hydrogen technologies which I think, as far as the call is concerned, it probably can get qualified as a criteria, and based on the other evaluation processes, I think the team will take a decision in terms of awarding. I think I'll rest my case here. Thank you for listening. Hope to answer if any technical questions are there towards the end of this. Thank you. Can't hear, I think so. Hello, Dr. Shilpa, we can't hear.
Hello,
Yeah, I can hear you right now, but I think,
is it audible now?
yeah, it is audible now. It is audible.
So, good afternoon, everybody. I will be quickly touching upon what is expected in the call and what you should expect when you log on to the BIREC website and how the proposal submission is to be done. And I'm really sorry for the technical glitch that happened. We somehow seem to be having an unstable internet connection only today. So we had announced this call in December on 26th of December, and the call for proposals is open for 1 month. So the last date for proposal submission is the 27th January, up till 11:59 at night. BIRAC, as I mentioned earlier, that BIRAC was selected as an implementing entity by Ministry of New and Renewable Energy for pilot projects for the production of green hydrogen. These the technologies that we are hoping to see in the proposals is that the hydrogen production could be either from biomass or it could be any other innovative technology based intervention. The objective is to support pilot plant and then to look for the utilization as fuel to see the validation of the technical feasibility and performance and to demonstrate the offtake of the hydrogen that is being produced. So when we come to the entities who can apply, the main applicant could be an Indian company. It could be a private limited entity or any startup. Could also be public or state or center enterprises or any other statutory corporations. The main requirement is that the company should be registered under the Indian Companies Act 2013 and minimum of 51% shareholding should be by citizens who hold Indian passports. While a company or a startup would be a main applicant, these proposals, can be uh, submitted either by these companies as a sole entity, or they can also be submitted either in collaboration or as a joint venture. The collaborators could be any other company or a limited liability partnership, any of the academic institutes, central public sector undertakings, state corporations, organizations, research institutes, NGO trusts, or foundations. Whether the proposal is submitted sole as a by a company or in a collaborative or in a collaborative manner, a single proposal is to be submitted by one applicant. In case you are going in for a joint venture, there should be a power of attorney in the favor of the lead member, which should be issued by the other members of the joint venture. A joint venture agreement would also need to be submitted between the members. In case it is a collaborative project, then in that case, we are expecting a memorandum of understanding which would highlight the roles and responsibilities of the different parties. Also required would be an undertaking by all the applicants that whosoever are participating for the proposal, they are not a defaulter to any lender. They should not have been barred, should not be included in any blacklisting done by any government agency or the authority in India. And also a disclosure statement regarding participation of the companies would be required. The formats for these undertakings are available, when you log on to the BIRAC website and start the proposal submission. For the scope of the project, we are expecting that the projects wherein who intend to demonstrate a pilot scale or a demonstration project are welcome to apply. The proposed technology should be proven already at laboratory scale. So in a sense, we are hoping that at least a TRL of 5 or 6 should have already been achieved for the technology. Early stage validation should have been conducted. While these two are the prerequisite and the main criteria, the scale of operation for the pilot plant, that is up to the applicant to decide as to what scale of operation they want the technology to be demonstrated. Adequate land for the proposed technology, setting up the pilot plant, that has to be arranged by the applicant. And also the site where they want to put up the pilot plant has to be decided by the executing agency. One thing to note here is that in case the project has been sanctioned under any scheme, under the Green Hydrogen Mission or any other scheme of Government of India, then for similar objectives, the entities are not eligible to apply. And studies involving development of proof of concept or early stage research where the concept is still not being developed or validated, they will not be supported under the project. The maximum financial support that is available for these projects is around 25 crore per project. For private entities, up to 80% of the total equipment cost or maximum support of 25 crore is there, whichever is less. Whereas for government organizations, 100% of the total equipment cost or maximum of 25 crore for each project, whichever is less.
Dr. Shilpa, you're muted.
No, sir, the internet just turned slow. The slide did not
Oh,
change.
sorry.
So I'm waiting
Oh,
to go
sorry,
to the
sorry,
next slide. Yeah.
sorry.
So, as I said, maximum financial support of 80% of the total equipment cost or 25 crore for each pilot project, whichever is less. Whereas in case a government organization is the main entity, then 100% of the total equipment cost or a maximum amount of 25 crore will be there for each pilot project, whichever is less. While having said that, we have a differentiation of allowable and non-allowable expenditure. So basically, under the scope of the present call, only expenditure related to equipment or retrofitting for production of green hydrogen and its derivatives would be allowed. Any cost focusing on the operating expenses or the recurring expenses such as manpower, consumables, for any cost involving production of renewable electricity, its sourcing, that is not allowed, will not be considered under the scope of the project. Also, civil construction associated with the pilot plant, cost of the land or water sourcing will not be considered under the project. The only allowable expenses is the equipment and retrofitting if required for the production of green hydrogen at pilot scale is the main cost which is allowed. Also, we will be expecting a bank guarantee, which will be amounting to 20% of the amount sanctioned by BIRAC, and the duration of that bank guarantee will be till the end of the project. Coming to how to apply for the proposals. Yeah, so you have to, the proposals have to be submitted on the BIRAC website. When you go on the landing page of the BIRAC website, there is on the top right a section which you can say which says login or register. Once you click there, the login, you will be directed to the login page where you will see new user, click here to register. Once you click on the new register user, it will take you to the registration landing page where uh, you have to select the third option, which says click here to register or apply for the National Green Hydrogen Mission. Once you register, you have to put your credentials, the company credentials, and a username and password will be sent to the registered email ID. The register you should get such an information within 1 to 2 hours or within 24 hours. In case you don't receive that within one working day, then you can send an email to us and we will direct it to our IT cell for resolving. But normally the username and password is delivered within 1 to 2 hours of registering on the BIREC website. So once you've received your username and password, you can log on to the BIREC website with those details and you will see a list of active calls which are there. National Green Hydrogen Mission would be flashing over there. You can select the open option and then enter the main page wherein you can submit your proposal. And you have to click on submit new proposal for start putting the details for required for proposal submission. When you start the new submission, there are going to be different sections. The application format requires the basic information to be filled in, which involves the particulars of the company, the title, the TRL level, the starting TRL level and closing TRL level. Next to that, we would have the particulars of the applicants, such as the details of the company, the key investigator details. Their resume is required. The details of the applicant team members are required to be put, and then there are other necessary company-related information, such as the shareholding pattern of the company, the memorandum of association, agreement of association, annual accounts. All that have to be uploaded while the proposal is being submitted. So please keep all those documents ready when you start the proposal submission. Once you are done with the administrative aspects, you have the proposal details, wherein it will ask you the technical details related to the intellectual property and the regulatory aspects that are required in the proposal. And finally, we come to the last section in the proposal submission, which focuses on the objectives and the timelines and the budget required for the proposal. The technical details that are asked in the proposal include sections such as novelty of the technology, the preliminary work that has been done, what is the scale of operation for the current technology, what kind of raw material you require, what is the energy or resource that would be generated, approximate production cost of the hydrogen, if there are any national international status for the proposed technology, and what kind of risks do you envisage. We request you to be very specific and concise, so that the whatever is the main aspect of the technology is clearly brought out when you fill the technical section of the application form. Once you are done with filling in the required information, you come to the objectives and work plan, which the screen would appear somewhat like the picture which I have on the screen. So you have to put in your objectives for the proposed work, the methodology that would be utilized for achieving these objectives. In case the methodology doesn't work, if you have any alternate strategy, and what will be the process indicators for measuring that the objectives had been achieved. There is a scope to enter 3 objectives, and then within 3 objectives, you can have different activities which would be focusing on every objective that you want to achieve in the current project. Once you have filled in into the objectives, you come to the page wherein the milestones have to be highlighted. So over here, if you see that there are going to be 4 milestones in the project. Based on that, concomitant to that, we have the percentage of financial assistance that would be released. So once the agreements and the formalities have all been completed, 20% of the project cost would be released. Once the grantee receives the 100% worth of equipment, then you have to submit the project reports. Those will be evaluated, and subsequent to that, remaining 40% would be released. It's expected that the projects would be commissioned within 12 months of the start of the project. Once the commissioning of the plant has been done, then remaining 30% would be released. Once the plant is commissioned, operation is to be demonstrated for a period of 6 months. That will bring us, to approximately 18 months in the project duration, and the remaining 10% would be released upon the demonstration of the plant for 6 months and completion of the project and submission of the technical report. As I said earlier, there are quite a lot of documents that are required. We require CA certified shareholding. There is a specific format which BIRAC has. That format is available once you log in and start submitting the documents. So that format is to be certified by your CA, by the chartered accountant, and that has to be uploaded. Certificate of incorporation of the applicant company and all of the other members who are the part of the joint venture or collaboration. Certified copies of audited annual accounts for last financial year is required. Memorandum of association and agreement of association of the companies is required to be uploaded. In case it's a collaborative project, then we would expect MOU or memorandum of understanding between the parties. In case you've not signed the MOU as of now, at least letter of intent would be needed that these entities would be participating, and a very preliminary roles need to be defined, and copies of the passport of the shareholders or the partners or entities which are there, that needs to be submitted. Quickly touching upon the selection and evaluation, the administrative eligibility will be conducted in-house at BIRAC, wherein we see all the the documents that have been submitted by the applicant. In case we feel that certain additional documents are required, we will send emails for getting those documents. But it is suggested that please go through the call for proposal document very carefully and submit as much as the document is asked in that call for proposal document to avoid any delays in the processing of the projects. Once we have a list of the eligible projects, these will be evaluated by a screening committee. There would be technical evaluation done, which will involve the track record of the applicants, the innovation in the technology, the novelty of the proposed solution, what is the scope for future scale up, whether there is technical feasibility in the proposed technology or not, commercial deployment potential, whether it's possible or not, what is the total project cost that you have asked for, what is the quantum of green hydrogen production, and whether off-taker is identified in the proposed technology, or the consumption details of the hydrogen which is being produced. So, like these are just indicative parameters. We may have more based on what kind of proposals get submitted, and that is under consideration. The shortlisted proposals, which, the proposals which will pass the first screening stage, will then be called for a presentation. And then final approval will be given by the advisory group of the National Green Hydrogen Mission. The proposals which will finally be recommended by the committee would then have to undergo financial, intellectual property, and legal due diligence as per BIRAC norms. These are standard, procedures that we follow for all our applicants. So similar kind of diligence would be here as well. Once BIRAC is satisfied in all these nuances, we will share the agreements with you, which will have to be signed by all the entities in the proposal. During this time when we are signing the agreements, the applicants will have to open a zero balance saving account into which the limits will be transferred once the project becomes ongoing. And fund release for the first installment would be done once the agreement has been signed and the start date has been given by BIRAC for the project. And during the course of the project, regular monitoring is conducted via, the presentations which are given by the grantees and site visits which BIRAC along with the technical team conducts on the site to see the actual progress in the development of the plant, and the once it starts commissioning, then how is it working and all. Regular monitoring is done while the project is still ongoing. There are a few things that you have to note is that the fund recipient will have to ensure that the funds which are released for the project are actually utilized only for the purpose of the project, and the terms and conditions of the agreement, the GLA, which we call the grant letter agreement, those have to be strictly followed. Any expenses which you have done prior to the start date of the project will not be considered under the scope of the project. So, you have to ensure that whatever expenditure you do for the project is only done once BIRAC communicates the start date to the applicants. Any applicable laws, regulations, guidelines, the regulatory requirements, it will be the prerogative of the applicant to comply with that. Uh, any kind of approvals required for the design, safety, applicable environmental, or any other approvals required for commissioning and working of the pilot plant will be sole responsibility of the applicant. And if there are any delays in the execution of the project, will invoke a penalty, the details of which can be seen in the call for proposal document, which is available on the BIRAC website. I'll finish my presentation here. In case you have any questions, you can either put them in the chat or you can send us email. My email and Dr. Smita, who is also working in this program, both our emails are mentioned here. In case you want to have any in-person queries, you can call us on BIRAC landline. What I would strongly urge is that please go through the call for proposal document very thoroughly. All the information that we have presented here today is there in the call for proposal document. And please avoid last minute delays because, the date will not be extended, and don't leave the submission of the project till the last minute, because um, at times, we are never sure with technology, the internet might just not work, and you will not be able to, if you're not able to submit within the specified time, then there's nothing we can do, because proposals through emails are not accepted at all. Whatever is submitted on the BIRAC website, only those proposals will be considered and will be taken forward. That's all for now from my side. If you have any questions, you may please indicate them in the chat box. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So, since there is sparsity of time, we will quickly go through some of the questions that have been asked. Uh, Mainly, the question that I'm seeing asked again and again is the minimum or indicative hydrogen production capacity. Professor Dasappa, if you are still with us, can you please talk about the quantum of hydrogen produced for viability of the technology in India and indicate it on the MNRE website as well?
But probably I will not be able to specifically do that one, because once somebody is looking at the capacities, probably it also has an implication. I think the program talks about a maximum of about 25 crores. That also will decide what should be the broad contours of the costing and the capacities which can be really looked at. If somebody has more money to put in, except for this to be taken as a share, I think it's left to the individual group. It becomes very difficult to define the capacity, because the proposal doesn't talk any. It has given a range of application right from cooking till the end. I think it some judicious decision has to be made by the end user depending upon the application.
So, from the proposal's point of view, the discretion of the committee and the capacity of the agency will decide the minimum or indicative hydrogen production, and it should be as per the technology that is proposed, and the committee and the experts will decide whether that is appropriate for that particular technology and that particular agency. That's why it is not completely defined in the call for proposal. Secondly, a recurring question is that whether multiple proposals can be submitted by a single entity. There is no restrictions on the number of proposals submitted by an entity, as long as there are some distinctive aspects in each proposal. There should not be same proposal submitted multiple times, but if the technologies or the proposed objectives are different, then the applicant agency can submit multiple proposals. Shruti ma'am, one more question is there about the off-takers. So the participants are asking whether off-takers need to be identified, or an intent is enough for the proposal, and later on a proper agreement can be given.
See, with this regard, I would like to say that it's always better to have things planned out in the beginning. If you have somebody already identified for the proposal, as an off-taker, and you provide the details, that is really excellent. But in case you're not able to identify the off-taker, at least you should be very clear as to how you want to utilize, the how you want to utilize the hydrogen. At least that aspect should be clear. Obviously, if you have an off-taker identified, and then it would it may give preference, not preference, but yeah, we would understand that you have everything sorted out. So it will be better if you plan these things in advance and then submit the proposal.
Another question directed to you, Dr. Shruti, is even if it is a startup, it needs to have a collaborator.
See, as I indicated in the beginning, companies or startups, they can apply projects solely, like as in like all by themselves, or they can enter into an collaboration or a joint venture. But if you don't want to have a collaborator, you think your technology is enough and you can scale it up and take it to larger scale, you're most welcome to apply as a single entity.
The evaluation criteria has been mentioned in the CFP, but at the end of the day, it will be at the discretion of the committee, and some of the criteria have been mentioned. But overall, the project proposal will be looked at as a whole, and the objectives, how well they are defined, will decide during the selection process.
As I indicated a few parameters which we have decided, initially would form a part of the shortlisting committee, shortlisting the proposals. But, once we get all the proposals which are submitted, then depending upon comparative analysis, we may include some more specific parameters for shortlisting.
The other question is about the extension of the call for proposal. Would you like to?
Yeah. So see, as of now, I don't think so. There is a scope to extend the last date of submission. That's why we've been reiterating it since this webinar started. That 27 January, 11:59 at night, the submission would stop. But in case it still has to be discussed internally, and in case there is an extension, then the same would be advertised on the BIRAC website and on the social media handles. But as of now, please try to submit the proposal by 27 January.
Thank you, ma'am. Due to paucity of time, we won't be able to take any more questions, but all your questions which are there on the chat, we will be replying to them individually through emails. And do write to us for any specific queries or any problems. We will be able to troubleshoot as and when they arise. We are available on the email IDs given and also on the phone number that is available in the CFP document. With this, I would like to conclude this session for today, and I thank you all for taking time in your busy schedule to attend this webinar, and I specifically thank Professor Dasapat for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, Dr. Jitendra Kumar, MD BIRAC, for taking time in his busy schedule and giving an opening remark for this webinar. And thank you, Shilpi ma'am, for explaining the call for proposal details in a brief and succinct manner. With this, I would like to end this webinar. Thank you all.
Thank you very much for joining. You may send your any queries if you have. You can send email to us and we'll try to respond as quickly as we can.